comes to luck, you make your own. Springsteen. Up until not very long ago, I didn't know the first thing about Indian cuisine. Then again, up until now, I still don't know the first thing about a lot of things. Truth is, I was once part of that awful group. You know, the type of people that go directly to what is familiar on an Indian menu. Give me some vindaloo, give me some Goa curry, throw in some naan bread. If it's flavored naan, even better. Weeks later, I go through that routine all over again. My eyes would scroll the menu up and down. I'd read the descriptions. I would try to imagine the flavors. And despite how adventurous I am with my own cuisine, I'd once again narrow it down to the 2 to 3 dishes that I was familiar with. Of course, that all changed for me when I read the story about this man's food. Behold the great Deepak Kaul, the child of Kashmiri immigrants in New Jersey who at one point decided to abandon his career path of becoming a doctor to becoming a chef instead. There's so much to love about this man and this food. In a country that for the most part prefers restaurants with familiar menus versus food that represents the truest expressions of a culture, Chef Deepak defies whatever you thought Indian cuisine is supposed to be. And still, somehow, he does this by making those flavors new and familiar, all at once. Anyway, today is a 2-for-1 for me, meaning I get to eat a great meal and talk food and culture with my dear friend, Chef Han Lee Wong. You see, when it comes to that topic, food and culture, it is nearly impossible to find someone with as many opinions as this man. And I'm not just talking about the hot takes. Any half-ass line cook with an apron and a set of knives will give you those. I'm talking about the real takes. Culture, life, cooking, the things that truly shape you, give you perspective, and make you a great chef. Or truly great at anything for that matter. My name is Angel Medina. I am a lover of coffee, mezcal, and anything properly deep fried. In 2017, I quit my daytime job to pursue my passion for coffee. Since then, I've opened 4 cafes and 4 restaurants, including the beloved Repubblica. In addition, I've spent the last year writing about culture, community, and food. All so that I can share with you the stories of the people reinventing and reimagining the future of this beautiful city. People who look, speak, and sound like me. These are their stories.
I don't know about you, but like especially with Korean food, there's like regional differences, there's regional dialects. Everybody speaks Korean, but they don't really speak the right way, whatever. Yeah. Imagine like the South, deep South, and then like deep New York. You know, it's like night and day. You know?
Right.
But with that comes the cuisine. And a lot of times, when people come to my spot, they're just like, oh, it's like home food. You know, they call it jipbap, which means like, oh, this is what I would eat at home. Why would I pay for this? I'm like, well, you're the one waiting in line.
Right.
So I'm not the one to ask. You know, like clearly you're lazy to cook.
Right.
Or
why are you here?
Like, you know, like you're here for the hype or whatever. But in the end, what never gets said out loud is like, you still represent your culture. See, when you cook the food that you are where you are from,
right,
there's like this weird obligation, you know? Like people are like, oh, you should put a bento on. I'm like, well, no. You know, like, what do you want me to do next? Dim sum out of a fucking food cart? You know, like, no, bro, it's not a blanket.
You want me to run a conveyor belt?
Right, yeah, you want me to start like cutting up fish, you know, like, but it's a weird obligation because I think a lot of times with me, like a lot of guilt comes into play when I get older heads are just like, this is what you'd have at a Korean restaurant. And it's like, all right, look, man, like, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know if anybody told you, I'm a fucking food truck, all right? Like, baby steps, all right? I'll get my restaurant one day, you know? But, you know, like, representing your culture and your food, you become an either wanted or unwanted ambassador.
Right.
And how you handle that, I think, is really how far you will take your cuisine, you know?
We're one of the first Korean food trucks, right, in the city?
Yeah.
Not the first.
I think one of the, I would rather it put like I was one of the first known, like that would make it on Eater, or like that would make
what
it
year
on.
was that?
2009 is when I first opened. I had to close back down in 2010 after the fire, and then I came back in 2014. Whatever, like, so it was like back in the day, everybody out here had like a teriyaki shop. They wouldn't do Korean food. They'd have a teriyaki shop, and they'd like slide you a little bit of kimchi maybe. And this is my theory, is that like it's because they thought that either A, Korean food was too spicy,
Right.
or B,
It's just unknown.
everybody knows, like teriyaki was already established, so why not do that, you know? Same thing with sushi joints, you
Right.
know? But now it's different. Like, so yeah. So I think I was like one of the first to come out and just be like, "Hi, I speak great English. I look very Korean, kind of. This is what you would eat at your mom's house." That sounds absurd when I say it now.
Just to reiterate, Korean food has been in this country for longer than you've probably been aware of. From teriyaki burgers, bulgogi, japchae, bibimbap, all the way down to Korean tacos. And though some might see it as an evolution of the food, I think of it more like a cultural continuum, driven mostly by the immigrants who at one point used a little kimchi on the side as a way to communicate their heritage and common bond between one another. But I'm gonna let the chef explain that.
When I started the food truck, I had to like, I started as a line cook, you know what I mean? So like, I was always trying to pay attention to what people were bringing back, you know, and what have you. So I've always been very sensitive to like, what do people eat, what do people not?
Right.
But when I started to open my food truck, I was like, all right, what am I gonna make? And dude, the list was huge. The menu was so different. And one day honestly, man, like it was a lot of explaining. It was a lot of just like people just being like, so what, am I saying this right? Or like, is this? Or like, how do it, you know, like, am I supposed to use chopsticks? Am I supposed to this? And like, so it was a lot of education. And I was so proud to do that because I was like, I'm representing Korea. Korean food, Korean culture, like, no, you should do this. And that lasted for like 3 months. After the third month, I was like, no more forks. No more forks. You guys have instructions on the chopsticks. This is how you're gonna do it, all right? Figure it out. No, you're not saying it right. Get out of here. But I had to change my menu a lot. And I realized that like, it wasn't that I had like such an ambitious menu, it was just that I had to really kind of narrow it down. Because like when you come to a food truck, you don't go to a food truck because of the variety. That's gonna scare you. You know, you're gonna come to a food truck because like they do one thing, they knock it out, and that's that. No one else can do that.
At least that's what it should be.
That's what it should be.
Right.
Right. But you know, like it was hard.
Quick pause to remind you all, if you ever thought about opening a food truck, a cafe, or even something as simple as a pop-up, always start with less. Smaller, tighter menus equals smaller risk. From the food cost to the cost of staffing.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Because like, it was one thing like when I first opened, like no one came by. And then like I got a write up, and then the hype train started. You know what I mean? Like as what I call the hype train. Because you have to remember, Jong Grillin started before Instagram.
Right.
Facebook and Twitter was booming. You know, so like
I think I caught you on Tumblr. Right?
yeah, you might have caught me on a Tumblr story or something. You know, and then like, but every time I hand the dish down, I'd be like, okay, so like this is like, you know, everything's a vessel for rice. You know, like meat's marinated, but it's cooked rare, this and that, the other. And I'd look up and just be like, oh, hey, what's up, Mom? Sorry. You know, like, it was so scripted, you know. But now, but looking back, so like, yeah, after like 3 months, I was just like, Jesus, I'm so sick of explaining these things to people. Like, can I make something more familiar for people? And my partner's good friend came by who spent a lot of time in Korea and was just like, bro, you have all the ingredients to make bibimbap. Why don't you just do bibimbap? And I'm like, dude, I don't have stone bowls. What am I just gonna like produce like all these stone bowls and put it out? And then I couldn't stop thinking about it. I was just like, shit, everybody loves bibimbap. And then I was like, I watch the way people eat and like, it's amazing. Because this is why I don't have hot sauce anymore. I'd watch people get the food, they'd open the box and be like, wow, meat. You know, you can see the, wow, meat eyes, you know? And then they take the sauce and they drench it and then they just mix it all together. And I'm like, shit, these people are already built for this. It's like, why am I not doing this already? You know? Upcharge the egg, you know, fried egg and throw it on top. So I did. And what I realized in doing that is that I was kind of rewriting the rules of what that quote unquote traditional dish was.
Right.
But more importantly, I was building the memory, right? So people would be like, yo, you're the first time I've ever had kimchi. I'm like, fan-fucking-tastic. Now, anytime you've had kimchi, you're gonna compare it to me.
Yeah, that's right.
It's gonna be one of two ways. It's gonna be like, oh wow, it's never gonna be that dude made it wrong. It's always gonna be like, man, this is how I had it,
Right.
you know? So like that was a big advantage that I saw. That was like the gift that I saw.
The thing that worked for you is the fact that even though that evolution happened naturally, you never really compromised the integrity of the quality of the product that you were doing and the flavors.
Yeah, I was like no, because like the thing is like once I realized that I'm building memories, right?
Right.
Is that like then it's a matter of maintaining. And then everything had to get built around maintaining that. And that was the kind of the path that I chose, right? Like I could add more sugar, I could use less soy sauce, I could do whatever, right? And build it way more mainstream. And I did that one time. And what I found was that one, I was going insane because honestly, no one's gonna make it like me. And then two, if I came to the realization like, all right, if no one's gonna make it like me, then my bank account should be way bigger. Then there has to be, there's a money to fuck it ratio, right?
Right.
And then I realized like, damn, it ain't worth it. It ain't worth it. Like people are just gonna think what they want anyways. People are not, like no one eats for nutritious value anymore. You know what I mean? No one's going to you and just being like, Anya, I need 86 more grams of protein. You know what I mean? Like no one's doing that. So in the end, when people talk about like passion projects or whatever, like, yeah, this is it. This is exactly what it was. So that's why I'd always stayed consistent, or that's why like I still prep, or I still get things from certain places, or like I still make sure the marinades taste like this way because, you know, I'm still chasing that. I'm still chasing that. Just like, nah, man, I want you to come, and if it's the first time you've been here, fantastic, you know, because it's gonna be just like it was in 2009, if not a step up, you know, like, and no shortcuts.
And there you have it, kids. This is how one dish or one cuisine starts as one thing, and many years later, it ends up being something entirely different. It's the evolution of food, really. And believe me, as much as I would want to knock it for not being traditional Korean food, I simply remind myself that like Indian cuisine, I really didn't know a fucking thing about Korean food before moving to the city. And even if I did, it will never be my place to walk into someone else's culture and say what is and what isn't real Korean, or real Indian, or real Puerto Rican, or real Chinese, whatever. None of that should matter. All that I can tell you is that I'm grateful for the opportunity to break bread and talk food and culture with people like Chef Han. I'm sorry, break naan and talk food and culture with people like Chef Han.